We do use the idea of progression, or the old idea of unfoldment, or all these things. Okay, spiritual advancement, and all these things, and that's fine. But realistically, these are ghosts that we chase. All right, because they're in creation. Again, life is an isness. You've reached that point where you're deciding. It's really a decision. Every moment you decide, and just like you said, to become more aware. Now look at the people in the corporation. This is not good or bad. We're not saying they're bad. We're just saying they're not deciding to become more aware. It's that simple, isn't it? They're just saying, no, we want to listen to Harry, and we don't want to listen to you. We don't want to become more aware. We just want to listen to Harry. And so, see, it's a decision, isn't it? It's not about progression. It's you just decide to become more aware and explore. Just like anything you do in your life, you decide to get up and go to work. It's a decision that you make, or you decide to stay in bed and not go to work. And you can say, well, if I don't go to work, I'm not progressing. If I do go to work, I'm progressing. I'm doing good. Well, again, these are ideas in creation. Creation has its point with the literal sense of ourselves. We need that in its own particular way, but realistically, it's to help us get to the point where we recognize the isness life is, to where we survive standing in that isness. And this is what the boys do. They stand in that isness. And they don't need the literal self anymore. You see? And so again, you've actually surpassed progressing. You're there. You've come to that point where you've decided to be there. See how cool it is? Again, it's so simple. So you don't have to chase ghosts anymore. All right? These are ghosts. These are just ideas. The isness is complete. It is the true completeness. It's everything. So what is it that you need to chase? You just simply decide to explore the isness. That's up to you to do that, and to recognize how it is already. You see? It's so simple, isn't it? Yeah, it's so cool. And then from there, you eventually are standing in, you recognize everything that you need, because you become complete and more complete all the time. And then you surpass the literal self. But as long as we have the bodies, yes, we maintain them accordingly, but we get better at maintaining them. So, yeah, I understand. I'm going through some body things right now. We all go through body things here. It's like Paul talked about the maintenance of the physical body. It's just nothing but maintenance. We're always just dealing with the maintenance of this world. And when we're young, we don't think about it. We're just running around chasing ideas. And so we really don't think that, we really don't think too much about, eating, sleeping, going to the bathroom, buying clothes, keeping ourselves warm, doing all these things. We think that, these are activities in life, but they're really all maintenance is what they are. Does the wind need to do any of this? Does the sun need to do any of this? No. Does the ocean? No, not at all. Only the body forms do. And we are beings of light. And when we, have recognized that position fully and completely, we don't need to deal with maintenance anymore. So at least you're at that point where you recognize you're a being of light. You're no longer a follower of some guy holding up his picture. All right? You're no longer a subject of the queen, etc. All these things, you see? There becomes the difference. But if you want to be, go do it. You want to believe in the gods? You want to bow and kneel to them? Go do it. You have that right. It's a decision you make. But you don't have to. And so for most people, because they've been taught how they have, they want to chase ghosts. And so this is what I was going to talk about a little bit today to better define this, because as you know, we're providing in creation here, we want to continually better understand the literal side. Now, all of creation is literal, okay? That's what it is. Yet we can be unique within creation once we learn how to do it. In other words, the basic idea is this. I came up through, the invented systems like anybody else, and that's okay. Somebody else invented it, all right? We go back to the caveman. Again, we'll go over this many times. And, the movie 2001 is a good example. We see the monkeys jumping around the monolith. The monolith is the hint of the unknown. That's really what the whole idea is. And most people don't get that. It's like, okay, maybe this slab has value, maybe it's gold, maybe it's black gold, whatever. Everybody has their idea. No, it really represents the unknown. That's it. And the unknown will always be unknown because it's endless. And that's life itself, the all-aliveness life is. And really, when you understand this, that's so cool, because as long as it's unknown, that means it's endless. Once it's known, it's limited, you see? That becomes then in a literal sense. And so this is where we confine ourselves. Do we want to confine ourselves with a literal sense, or do we want to have the adventure of constantly exploring the unknown? You see, that's the fun part. That becomes the adventure. I like the unknown. I like the endless unknown. It's like walking out at the sea, and there's the horizon is endless. That gives me the room to be wonderful all the time, and not confined and literal and limited. That becomes the difference itself. So we see that everything here, in the literal sense, has been created, and that's okay. I came up through this. I had my construction business, as an example. My former wife, she went through the educational system. That's fine. But she didn't want to surpass that. I see people that they want to stick with what others have invented. We all need to go through whatever process it is to get to the point to where we understand, do we want to now explore the uniqueness and the reality of ourselves, and realistically create our own position, you see? And this is what the new presentation is about. This is what the Skypes are about. This is why I take the time with all of you, so that each one of you can create your own unique position to share, you see? That you are yourself, and not just a product of even the new presentation, you see? That you are yourself. So we come up through these businesses, we realize it, and I talk with many of you, and you're into businesses, you're doing things, you're working your 9-to-5 boring job. Okay, fine, we have fun with these ideas. And my idea here is to, I went after the funding. I did this. I'm very proud of myself that I did this. I took the risk. And from a little flyer, a little idea, I've reached these people to where they're 100% agreeable. It took me a lot to get their agreement, but I got it. And so again, who can do that? Who's done that? You see? And so the thing being is that, but I took the risk. I had to decide to do that. And so even within that, you must decide through your process to create your own position. And if you don't create it aside from what you've come through, then you're limiting yourself to the process you've been through. But that's your decision. And now it's not good or bad, right or wrong. No, it's simply a decision. Do you want to stay with that? Now I look at my, these former people, and again, it's not a criticism, it's a decision. And this is where people misunderstand. They must listen. And most people do not listen. They really do not listen. And it takes a while, I get that, but they do not listen. And so this is a real art to listen, and especially listen to yourself and what you're saying. And this is some of the things I want to go over with today, so you better understand how to listen to yourself and listen to what has been created that controls you in this human farming planet. You decide you want to be controlled, you want to go after the sound good stuff that's been created by others, or do you want to take on the adventure of creating your own position so that you're that unique being like the sun shining, you see? Yes, it's a lonely journey, but at the same time, you're standing with other beings, and this isness has a language of its own, but there is no language with it because it cannot be considered. You can consider it, but there are no considerations with it. That is the paradox, you see, for you to figure out. With your literal self, you will not figure it out ever. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was explaining this to him. And I said, you won't figure this out, because he's very literal. He's very intellectual. The intellectuals have a real task with themselves. They're self-defeating. They look good. They sound good. The scientific community, oh, it looks wonderful, doesn't it? We all look to the people in the white coats thinking, oh, they're the authorities, they're the economists or whatever. They're nothing. They're a mistake. They're destroying the world, but yet they're the authorities. The sun shining supersedes everything. The natural environment that the earth is supersedes everything. Who's focusing on that? No, people focus on the business world. They turn on the 6 o'clock news. And again, this is not good or bad. It's a decision, isn't it? You decide every moment. See the bigger picture, stand in the nowness, or decide to be literal and controlled. Now, we're going to look at some of the words, just the simple words that we use. And these words have been created like political speeches. I'm going to give an example. And again, I'm not picking on people. We're going to use the presidents. And how many times, for those of you, and not everybody, but basically in the United States, how many times have we heard the president say, you want to believe in America. You want to believe in the American way. You want to believe that we can do this. How many times have you heard that? And you know what he's saying? You know what he's really saying? That word belief was created because it's a ghost. There's no such thing. Hope, belief, and faith, like I've written in the books, those are ghosts for you to chase and to accept, because they use those to get your agreement so that you are controlled in this human farming planet. That's very real. That's the only reason they use them. But it does sound good, doesn't it? It sounds very heartwarming, doesn't it? Oh, and the word patriotism, that's a good one, isn't it? Who thought of that one? That's all baloney. That's to control people, to get them to go out there and destroy themselves and to be controlled by others. That's it. These are all control words. And when you start to look at the words, now we use the word belief all the time. We use the word hope. How many times in the day it's like you use the word hope? Oh, I hope this will happen. I hope that'll happen. See, you're being subliminally controlled. There's no such thing as hope. It is or it isn't. But guess what? Life is an isness. Do you want to be complete? Do you want to be real? Do you want to be wonderful? Or do you want to hope that you'll be there? That's like saying, I want to stay sick and a cripple. That's the word hope. That's what it means. Look at the idea, and many of you know this. There's a foundation called the City of Hope, and everybody's sick. That's real. It's right in front of you. They're all sick. They're all hoping they'll get better, but they stay sick. But it sounds heartwarming, doesn't it? And it's all BS. It's to control people and keep them stupid like the fluoridated water we have, all these things. The only thing that works here for the deceptors is deception. They can't be honorable and they can't be sincere because it doesn't work for them. But these things are very important because we really live, because of the technical age we live in a subliminal society. We see things on the surface, we're sharing these things, but really they're controlling the population subliminally, and they know this. This is why, even with the internet and all the information that's out there, they're not really concerned, because on the subliminal level, they're still controlling people, you see? And this is where, many of us are still fooled. And this is why we continually go over this. And this is where, things can be easily taken for granted. This is a big task to maintain. It's just like, anything that we have to maintain here with our lives. It's a lot to maintain. And so to maintain our sanity here, this is huge. So look at the words and how things are structured, etc. And I'm not saying not to use the word hope or belief or whatever, but watch how this stuff is used, and you decide if you want to use it. And sometimes I have to use these words too, because they're the only words that kind of connect to the communication of, if I'm talking to the average person, it's just easier to use that word, okay? Because if I start to use words that I'm familiar with, and I decide, or I've invented or created, because I've created my own position, they don't get it. It's like, what are you talking about? It's just easier then to use the word belief or hope, or it's like, okay, I hope this will happen for you. Good luck, And really, these things are all baloney. But at the same time, for the most part, we're talking baloney here, because this is how society has been set up and being controlled. But for us, we want to better recognize this so that we want to create our own position more so. And so through the creativity of the adventure, this is what we're doing. It's really the adventure at heart, and this sincerity and this honorability that's very, very important. And to better understand this and to constantly explore this. Yes, very, very important. Because again, we become more solid in this isness. And this is where you want to explore the isness aside from the literal self. You really want to see this, because this is the advantage for you, or you don't see it. That's your decision. And so it sounds like I'm saying, oh, you must do this. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the advantage is now that you know about this. Again, as we look at what we've come up through the programs. Even what Paul invented, it was a program. We have to throw it out. We have to throw his books out. We have to throw it all out, because it's too limited. It had its place. Jesus has its place. Buddha had its place. We got to throw them out. Otherwise, we're limited by these ideas that are in creation. The new presentation, it has its place. It is providing what it's providing right now, okay? It's providing, you might say, the sustenance of right now, but eventually it's got to be thrown out. I'm very realistic with this. How many times have I said, it is a reference, not a reality. But we utilize it the best we can. It's like the car that we drive now. We use it until it breaks down, and we got to throw it away and get the new car. That's real. That's how it works. But we don't worship it. We don't think it. And look at what the membership in the corporation. All of a sudden, same words that Paul wrote, when lots of times he didn't even know what he was doing half the time in the beginning, because we don't. We're going through the process. Now all of a sudden, these same words that he wrote are sacred. What the heck does that mean? All of a sudden, the same word, the, this, that, now all of a sudden, it's sacred words. What the heck does that mean? That means that when you use that idea, sacred, holy, it becomes worship, prayer, ritual. What does that refer to? Sacrificial, reptilian nonsense, doesn't it? And we see it. But it does sound sweet and heartwarming, doesn't it? That's where you want to be? Go ahead, go for it.